Hi, and welcome to Get Cosy and Comfortable with Your Money. I'm Linda Moore, the Money Mentalist, your host, and joining me today is Peter Vile, who is a businessman, entrepreneur, and I will hand over to him to tell you a little bit about himself.
Hi, thanks. Good to be invited along. Well, I guess my entrepreneurship is limited to one industry, and that's the ICT sector. So next month in August, I would have been co-founder of Augen for 27 years. Wow. So that's a long innings doing that. Prior to that, I was a developer in a language called COBOL, working for an insurance company. So it's probably about 30 odd years I've been in the ICT sector.
Right. Right. And I suppose in that length of time, I mean, they say a lot of businesses fail a lot in the first 2 years. If you've got through 5 years, you're doing really well. So I'm guessing in 27, 30 years, you will have seen a lot of this, the sort of the roller coaster times in the industry.
Definitely. We have. I mean, in the early days, we were just literally, I had a full-time job and I actually bought a house, and the other 4 founders we met at university all actually worked from the house in the bedrooms and the lounges.
Right.
And that's how we actually worked together. So in those days we had real carefree. We spent time on the swimming pool and playing games. And a bit more serious as life went on. And
right.
Yeah, we've been through, obviously the GFC was probably our biggest turn in the ICT industry. And again, we're seeing signs of it with different ones of our clients now as well. So that's our biggest lows would have been in those 2 times.
Yeah. It's interesting. I actually started my accounting practice from the hall cupboard at home as well. So
that was Old Coal Hall at University of Auckland.
Yeah, I didn't even get the kitchen table. There was a sewing cupboard in the house. That was my first office until I actually moved into a proper office. It was kind of exciting, isn't it? You feel a little bit more grown up in business when you sort of move out of home, don't you? There's that,
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we all had like I said, we had our PCs that we used at home, but we needed a printer at the time to print our first invoice. So we all actually had to contribute money, and it was like $3,000, 27. It was very expensive to actually buy a printer, and we loved it that much. I think we kept it for about 15, 16 years.
Wow.
ROI on that particular printer was our first prized possession that we bought. So,
Yeah, and it's interesting now because of what's happened with the COVID and lockdown. We've all kind of gone back to working from home again too.
We've got staff in New Zealand, and I've got an office in Vietnam. So Vietnam will be 15 years. We've had an office in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Yeah, and again, both countries went into work from home about 3 days before official lockdown in New Zealand. And I have a 500 square foot office in both countries, and I've barely got anybody in it 4 months later. I'm just loving the working from home concept.
Yes, it's interesting. I know some people have enjoyed going back into the office environment, and others have kind of gone, we're happy staying working from home.
Yeah, I think the winter's helping that at the moment. Everyone's the public transport, buses, cold. So I think start seeing that again as winter passes. We'll start seeing people come back more.
Yeah, wanting to get back into and socialise a bit more. Cool, excellent. So before we get into the sort of this more serious money conversation, part of the reason that I want to do this is that I think right now there's quite a lot of mixed messaging and also some negative messaging around money, and almost building, there is a lot of not fear, but concern for people's futures. Are we going to have jobs? Are we going to keep our houses? But what I'm also hearing is people are kind of scared about talking about money. They're scared, they don't know who to talk to, and so there's sort of quite a bit of stress and anxiety around money. So I thought we'd just have these little chats, and it's not about what we earn or what we spend or anything like this. This is all about how we actually feel about money and how we think about money. So before we launch into those questions, just a couple of little quick ones. Dogs or cats?
Both. I have both.
Oh, good, right.
That's an animal lover, so I have both.
I do sometimes wonder if I should have dog, cats, or budgie, actually, because
I have a wife, 2 female daughters, 2 female cats, a female dog, and 2 female guinea pigs.
Oh, good grief, you're well outnumbered.
I set 9 or 10 on a good day. Yeah.
Well, when we first moved to the property, we had 2 dogs and 2 cats. and now we're just down to 2 dogs. Yeah,
Looking
and
good.
strangely not, they're not the same 2 dogs that we moved here with. So
Yep.
cool. Okay, and what about music? What would be? Do you have a favourite song? Do you have a theme?
Oh, me and my wife, I don't know, and I guess it's weird that it relates to money, but we've always loved, if we ever get to a bit of karaoke, we love singing The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, who,
Okay.
which is quite ironic, your conversation, but he obviously passed during COVID, so that was a bit of a sad thing.
Oh, that's right, he did too. Yes.
We
Yeah.
have lots of other songs that we listen to, but that's probably one that's our go-to.
Right. Okay. Yes, I have a bit of a repertoire. I have a repertoire depending on the mood.
Correct. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We span that spectrum as well.
Cool. Okay, so this next question is one that so everyone that I'm talking to in these chats, I'm asking the same questions because we all interpret it and we all think about money quite differently, and I'm getting lots of amazing answers. And it's also one that I ask all of my clients as well, because the answer to this question does influence all of the decisions that you actually make, both in business and in life. So it's kind of an important question to know the answer to for yourself. And the question is, what does money mean to me?
Oh, well, I'll try from maybe the personal side. My wife's an accountant, and she's also the accountant for work. So you know, money for us is something that we're savers. That's sort of what we do, being accountants. I'm actually an accountant. I'm a qualified BCom as well. So
Right.
unfortunately, we're big savers in our family, but we're also spenders. Once we've saved up, we pretty much buy things with cash. So, and we've installed those fundamentals with our 2 daughters as well. Got them,
Right.
cards early on in life, and they're now, one's part-time job, old enough to do that, and she's saving that hard. She still wants us to buy things for her. Little pile of money save up in her bank account. So we think we've done that well from
Right.
there. Money, I guess, it helps you do things, and different levels of wanting to do things in their life. We can be using ours to visit friends or family who live out of Auckland, or we've had some overseas at different times as well. So that ability to do that, and to do things others probably can't. But from a business perspective, I was once asked that exact question in an interview, probably about 5 years ago. A lady was writing a book, and she was writing a chapter of each person, and her first question was about that, and I said it was about 48 mortgages. So my chapter was headed 48 mortgages, and that was at the time I had 48 staff. And so all I was worried about all day, every day, was making sure I had the work in the business I'm assuming that they all had mortgages. They may not have, but that was my assumption, that I wanted to come to work to create an environment where they could all have a successful life and do things that they want by providing that environment. So she thought that was quite interesting, and I made it to her. And so, whether that sort of answered your question, it's sort of me was giving the ability to help others do what they want. They have their own different aspirations. Some of them are overseas, so they want to save up to, in pre-COVID, to go back for a 5 or 6 week holiday to their country to visit their families, because I've immigrated here. So each has their own idea, but my idea about running the business, we've been successful, been 27 years. We could have been a lot more successful. We could be a lot less successful. But I guess I've always been about, sharing it to my staff.
Right. Okay.
Do things and get on and do things with their life. And
Okay. So what I kind of heard through that is within your family, it's about providing securities, because you're savers, so security for the family for the future, but also with the freedom in there to make some choices and do what you want to do with it. And provide that good life wrapped around the family. So it's not saving for the sake of saving, because it's saving to be able to enjoy it and share it and pass that knowledge on to your family, your children as well.
Yeah, and just another thing you've raised there, one of our clients on the day of lockdown gave us a whole lot of our staff back, because their whole business just crashed. Their whole industry just literally died. So we actually decided to pay it forward with them. So we kept our 5 staff on there for 3 months for free.
Right.
So, we haven't yet got the rewards of that pay it forward, but that was the first time I'd actually used the pay it forward concept, and actually felt good about it.
Yeah. Oh.
A novel approach. Someone suggested it. Have you thought about that? And I went, actually, no. I mean, we could have brought the staff back. We could have potentially had to make them redundant or just sit them doing training. But we thought, hey, let's just leave them there, because they're doing great work for that client and helping through some bad times.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, I think, unfortunately, there are some really quite negative stereotypes around successful business people, and they seem to get a lot more media attention than those who are doing really good things with their very successful business, like you are, and giving back to the staff and being very conscious that you are building a business not just for you, but you're providing a living and potentially home for 48 people. Back then 48 people, plus for them, for their family as well. So is that sort of, was that conscious when you started to grow the business? Was that a conscious in your mind that that's what you were actually doing, or was the business just in growth mode and it was all kind of just growing like topsy?
It was going a little bit topsy early on because ICT was quite new, and you know, you could sort of, they were one of the highest charge rates for sort of thing, apart from probably lawyers and accountants and doctors. So everyone was like, "Well, that's expensive. You're on that sort of hourly rate." But I guess it never got to us. We thought we were doing something new. We'd studied hard to learn that, to do that. So and we could employ people that were also. I mean, when I went to university, back in the Herald, there was probably always 10 columns of accountants. The time I came out of university, there was 2 columns of accountants and 10 columns for ICT people. So we changed. We then thought, wow, we used to employ a lot of graduates from the University of Auckland, and I actually still have 2 here today who've been with us 16 years.
Wow.
Come out of Auckland University. We employed them as graduates on a training program, and they're still here working for us. So I think, I don't know if it was my plan or my business plan, but I think it was just inherent in our nature to do that. I mean, he's a refugee, so again, we sort of were looking out after people. I guess maybe it was just inside our DNA without knowing it.
Yes, yeah.
And that's why we haven't grown to be 100 or 500 staff, because we haven't got that sort of aggressive mindset. It's with those risks could also be some downsides when you start.
I always talk back, because I'm also an accountant, that's my background as well, and so you know, when I took on my first staff member, that's quite a scary moment, isn't it? That first employee, when you actually realise that you're not just responsible for yourself anymore, but you're responsible for someone else's family. And I think as a business owner, that's kind of a tipping point, isn't it? Where you kind of go, I've got to get serious about this now because it's not just about me.
Yeah, we used to spend lots of time having meetings, just the 5 co-founders originally at university, but when we made that first move, and we still talk about that in First Employee, and he's living in London and never comes back from London to New Zealand. He always comes and visits us and catching up. So there was a strong bond about that, our first child.
Yes, yeah.
It was very different, because if we had a bad week when we used to start up the business, we just divided whatever income we got, divided amongst the 5 of us, and that was good luck. But when you had an employee with a salary, he needed to get paid that, so we often went without in order to pay him what he was due.
Yeah, interesting. Gosh, they were fun times. I don't know that I'd want to go back to them, but it was, you know, sort of when you get to that year 5 or 7 in business and you go, wow, I'm still here, and you look back and go, I'm actually not sure how I managed to still be here, but I'm still here, kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, could be my own nature, but I was hoping to be doing less sort of work as I got older and more stuff. But obviously, I find I do more. I love the people and love to be here. I mean, even since lockdown, I still come in every day, just in case 1 or 2 people that come into the office. So I want to be here for them, to see them, even though the rest are wanting to work from home. So I'm a people person. So.
Yeah. I actually remember, I think it was last year, I decided that I'm not going to work anymore, because what I do, I don't consider it work. What I do because I really enjoy it, and I love doing it. So I don't see myself as a work. To me, work to a lot of people equates to you have a job, don't you? Where I'm actually doing something that I really enjoy and I love doing, and I'm sensing that you're in exactly that same position where you probably could step back a bit if you wanted to, but you're still having so much fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to take, I think, 3 days off tomorrow. It's my first since January. So it's about me every year.
Cool.
Have a lot of leave accruing. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to our next question, which is a bit of a fun question, but it does seem to be also a little bit thought-provoking, is if you were dating money, what would money say about you?
Ooh, I'm not a Tinder user, but I'll use that expression. I probably should have swiped right more in my life than left. I think a lot of opportunities in our business world have come to us that people have said, oh, would you like to be part of our business and give us some share equity by putting in free time? And we've sort of went, no, just, we'll still give you a good outcome, just pay us what it's worth, and you own 100% of your business, and we'll carry on 100% of ours. Some of those businesses we developed software for have gone on and sold for millions and tens of millions.
Right. Okay.
It's like, damn, if only we weren't so fixed on that sort of thing. So that's what I mean by if I'd swipe that way a bit more than swiping that way.
Right. Okay.
Adventurous in taking some of those risks where we've just focused on our solid business plan. So I guess it's probably my business partner, he's sort of sales and marketing, and I'm everything else from HR, legal, operations. So I'm very much the yin to his yang type.
Yep.
So I pour water on a lot of his great ideas. So that's probably the dating side of it, has been him and me dating over those years together to sort of do it. So I guess we could have been a lot more adventurous. I mean, setting up a company in Vietnam was a really big thing, and so that was 15 years ago. So we were still, no one else had really done that from New Zealand and ICT, and a big decision. There's companies in New Zealand that are larger than us now, who are big in New Zealand, but they've never set up an office overseas, and they sort of look and go, wow, how do you go about doing that, and how hard is it? And it is hard, and to do time zones, learning two countries' cultures, financial, legal, employment, it's a lot goes on upstairs, keeping track of all that sort of stuff. Right. So that was a big move from us. But so that's probably me from a dating perspective. I was probably very conservative. And a lot less.
Right. Okay. So you'd be kind of the cautious, conservative, slow, steady date. You'd really want to. So money would know you very well through that dating exercise. Yeah.
Very well put. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, in your business context, you've been dating money for a very long time now, and I'm guessing it's obviously very happy because it's still with you. The business is still there. So yes, you're now into the long-term relationship phase with money, where you're just sort of rubbing along comfortably.
Yeah. That's obviously, there's a few challenges at the moment with some of our larger clients who have and haven't come back, so we've had to go through that process, and that's been tough for everybody, but we're coming out the other side now of that as well, which is really good to see. But you're right, I don't think I'll ever change my view on that. I probably I do have my times when I will splurge a little bit on the business and at home, but typically I'm a very long-term, cautious sort of rainy day person.
Yeah. And of course that does mean too that, again, in our dating situation, because you've shown that loyalty and that to money will be being very loyal to you right now as well, I'm guessing too.
Yeah, it has been,
yeah. Cool, excellent. I love the answers I get to this question. I've never had the same answer twice. It's really interesting.
Very interesting way to ask the question about how I feel about money, dating it.
Yeah.
I'll go my accountant wife tonight and see what she
thinks. Yeah, that would be interesting too. Yeah, I was talking to one lady, and she actually asked her husband, "Oh, what do you think money would say to me?" And he turned around and said to her, "Oh, probably you're a bit stingy." And she's going, "Oh, really?"
Yeah, it's hard having your wife as accountant for business. I mean, I couldn't even buy her an engagement ring. Because if I bought it on the personal account, she would have seen it. If I bought it on the business card and reimbursed later, she would have seen it. So I actually had to go and ask her mother to borrow money off her mother. And that's what I actually knew I was going to ask her to get engaged before she did. Loan off them to buy her engagement ring. So it's a bit of a family joke how that works. Yeah, it's almost going back to the old-fashioned way of getting permission from the...
Yeah, getting permission, yeah.
That's not an intent. It's just, can I borrow some money, please? What sort of a husband are you going to be that can't afford to buy our daughter an engagement ring? But they got their head around it when they understood the problem.
Why? Yeah, oh, that's so cool. I love it. So if you could turn back the clock, is there anything that you maybe would do differently, or has there been, what would you think would be your biggest learning around money, and either in your finance, in your business, or in life, if you could turn back the clock?
Well, in business, I guess I probably alluded to before, I've been very conservative for the business, and I
Yeah.
guess I wear that hat for the business. So as I said, if we had been a little bit more adventurous, been willing to invest in some of those companies, the problem is we're getting too many of them. Everyone that came along, we haven't got a lot of money, got a great idea, can you put in some sweat equity? And all we've done, I mean, only 1 in 2 in 10 companies supposedly succeed, and the rest don't. So we probably wouldn't have had all been around long enough to be successful to get those rewards. But I think we could have probably calculated a bit better on some of those ones that looked like they were going to be winners.
Right. Okay.
Have taken that again. The investment in Vietnam was huge. Like that was a big, back then we had to put like $50,000 or something into the business in Vietnam. That was the law to set up a business. That was a lot of cash, big investment. So I wouldn't turn back the clock and change that, but that was, we then got it there, and I guess we have, we've got about 25, 30 staff there, but that sort of a New Zealand context, that's a small, medium, large company,
Yes.
But in Vietnam, it's almost a minnow. I mean, there's IT companies there with hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. So we could have probably put a lot more investment in terms of my money and our money into growing that Vietnam opportunity bigger. So that was probably something, because we did that initial investment. It was like, okay, let's wait and see how it goes, and we can take that next step quick enough to just grow it even harder and faster.
Yeah.
I mean, still fine. It still meets our current needs and goals as running a business. But when people in Vietnam come to our office, in the earlier days, they come in and go, "Oh, you've only got 10 people," and they wouldn't come for the interview. They'd walk out again.
Oh, wow.
It looked too small, a company in Vietnam proportions. Where in New Zealand, it's sort of, 10. Okay, you've been around for a while, and you're so it's quite different. The different cultures and countries, how people see sorts of things.
Yeah.
So with that, but I don't know. I mean, we haven't moved a lot. I'm not a big mover personally, like in terms of houses. I think I've only moved twice in 20 years. Same with we've been here 4 years, and the previous one we were 15. So we could have probably gone to a newer, flashier type a B plus sort of type office a few years earlier, and may have attracted some different types of staff. And I've been told that maybe some clients, that potential clients, came in, might have gone, this place looks a bit B grade at their previous place, and may have not chosen us because they thought we weren't a reputable company, even though we'd been around sort of 20 years at that point in time. So I guess impressions weren't big to me, but I wasn't flipping around and seeing what other people were looking. So I've heard anecdotal things after years later that people had made those comments. I mean, apparently our last premises was nicknamed a bunker, and I didn't know that.
Okay.
It only had windows at the front and the back of the office, and none on the sides, and that was sort of a nickname. But we've had staff that were there that left, and one's actually joining us next week. He's gone away for 3 years, and he's actually coming back to join us. So I'll be checking on him to see what he thinks of this new bunker. We've got glass 365.
Right, so you've got totally the other way.
We'll fix that bunker scenario. So I guess that's in the areas of sort of the money that I might have done different, spending a bit more. I guess that's renting and properties. That's probably the question there. We always pay above average, salary. So I don't think we do lots of stuff with our staff. We do fun things and games, and we support them in other ways. So it's not cash. We do lots of activities. They seem to enjoy and provide things. In Vietnam, it's actually a culture as a Western company, to go away for a vacation every year, paid by the company.
Oh, wow.
So we will send our staff and their partners, for 2 or 3 days every year to a place, and that could be a 3-hour train ride or bus ride, or they might fly even from Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi, and like that. So that's sort of common, that you budget for those sorts of things as a Western. That's to attract staff in Vietnam and the ICT. Those are some of the things you need to actually do and provide annually. But they will potentially fund their children and their grandparents to come to babysit the children, so that all the husbands and wives can actually have a great time together for 2 or 3 days. So we'll pay the husband and wife, but it's the cost of food and drink and transport is so much cheaper than it is.
Of course, yes.
Total like that. So those are some of the sort of things where it sounds sort of a bit frivolous to the New Zealand people sit and go, that would be nice, Peter, let's all go to,
Yeah, can we have a holiday to Fiji?
like someone's salary for a year to send the whole company and their partners, to somewhere in New Zealand. Maybe not at the moment, but it was. So we have to provide different things for the different countries.
Right. Yeah. Fascinating.
There's
Yeah.
very interesting dynamics. Yeah.
And it's interesting that no one has actually said I would necessarily do something different, but I've made sure that I've learned from the decisions that I've made, and it sounds like that you can be sort of super cautious in terms of finances and things like that, and you've got a business partner who gives you that balance of, and that's a really good fit. It works really well together, and I often see that in relationships and couples as well, where we've got one who's really wanting to go and let's spend, and the other one's going, well, can we just ease back a little bit? And it seems, it's interesting, in business it doesn't seem to have the same level of conflict that it does when it's in a relationship scenario where you've got that. So it sounds like you and your business partner have actually got that balance right, where you probably challenge each other, but you come out with the best decision as a result of it.
We do, I think so. And again, the weird bit is everyone's like money. I mean, I don't think he's logged into the company bank account probably for 20 years at 27.
Yeah.
And it's implicitly trusted. The bills are paid, everyone's paid, and it just happens and
Yes.
run with it. And it's bad that my wife is actually the second set of eyes on the counter, because it's like, okay, what are you two up to? People go, oh, that's bad business practice. But when you've been in business that long, you just don't worry about it. It's happening. If there's something going wrong, it would have surfaced a long time ago before now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. So just to finish, just another couple of quick little fun questions. This one might be a little bit challenging though. If you had $1,000 right now, what would you spend it on? And you cannot invest it. You have to spend it.
Okay. I don't know if it's I suppose an investment. It was about 2 or 3 nights ago, I saw an ad on TV. I think it was BP. I think it was a nurse went up to buy a coffee, and it had been paid for by someone else. I think, and that really brought a bit of a tear to my eye, to be honest. So
I saw that ad too. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it was wasn't it? So I think if I had $1,000, given what's just happened, and I'd go and put it to a place like that, a BP or some company that's doing a pay it forward type thing for essential workers, and I think that would be a nice place for $1,000 to go at the moment for.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. That's a lovely answer. I love that. And the last one, which again also might be an interesting one for you as well, is what would be the most either impulsive or frivolous purchase? And if you have to go back into your teens to look right back, that's fine. Well, so can you think of anything?
Yeah, there could be a couple of each, actually. I mean, from personally, I think when I was, and it's still here in our kitchen at work, I went out and bought a jukebox when I was 15.
Oh, right. Okay.
On a Pizza Hut ad on TV, there were some people dancing to jukebox. I thought they looked like cool, so I went and bought one for my bedroom. And so I had this big, massive, does 45 records, so it's that old. And it's been with me for 40 odd years now, and it's moved around from house to house. But now my wife said no, not going. So it's at work, and it's in the lunchroom at work. And Friday nights it gets switched on occasion. It's got some old classics. I've got about 400 LPs or something. So back then, for someone that sort of just had their first job, went out and bought, of all things, a jukebox.
Right.
A bit crazy, in my view, but it's been a good investment all those sorts of years. And I probably, like everyone, a car once. I had a car, went in to get it serviced, and while it was getting serviced, I walked along Great South Road at some of the nice fancy car yards there, and it was rain, so I ran into one of the car yards, and one of the dealers sort of saw me and goes, "You're looking at that car?" He goes, "Yeah, here, have these keys, take this car home for the night." And I'm like, "You don't know me from Barrow." So I go, "No, I trust you." And of course, the next day I went back and bought a $90,000 fancy V8 Club Sport R8 in bright red that I could not afford and did not need. And then that I had the service car that says, "Oh, I actually don't need that now. You can take it up the road." And the guys, I just traded it in. So that was quite impulsive for someone of my age. But I gone through 2 more V8s since then, so I love my V8s. And from a business perspective, well, probably when we probably didn't quite have our first employee, and there was the owners and our wives, and I think we went out one night to some fancy restaurant. We celebrate our company birthday every year around the clock, the 17th of August, and we went to some fancy restaurant, and they had like a goldfish bowl thing in the middle, and you sat in there and everyone sat round you in the restaurant so they could all see you. It was very, it was horrible, really. I think about it. And we were these young kids, fairly sort of shaven with universities, and we started ordering the wine from the preferred wine list, not the other stuff. So we went, we ended up getting a 400, a 500, and I think we bought a Penfolds Grange for about $900.
Yep.
Thought we were great drinking this stuff, but we wouldn't have known what the heck it was. And we started the 400, 500 to the 900 was probably tasteless by then.
By the time,
That was probably, I think the alcohol bill was, because of those 3 bottles, was more than the food bill for the night. And that was probably a headache for us the next morning when we woke up and looked at but that was very early on in IT days when things were quite gross.
Right. Yeah.
I have to go back years to find when I was frivolous. I don't think I've been that for many years now.
I'm so pleased I'm not the only one who impulse buys cars.
No.
I bought, well, actually, I've done it probably 3 times, actually. The first time I was driving in Manukau, and they had the Ford dealership on the corner, and there was this cool car up on the ramp, and I thought, oh, that's a nice coloured car. So I drove home in it, and and then a couple of other cars later, the car stereo had broken, and it was the second time it went in for a repair. Well, that was it. It was done. I took home a fancy red one that time.
Mine was a fancy red one too. They know exactly how to put them right in your eyes, don't you? So
they do. And I thought it was only me that they saw coming. So I'm so pleased I'm not the only one who's succumbed to that. Well, look, thank you. It's been so cool talking to you. Thank you very much. Really appreciated it. And it's been a really lovely chat. Now, we are, just so people can sort of see a little bit about your business, we'll pop the link below in your business there. And if anyone really did want to have a chat and find out more about your business and what you do, what's the easiest way for someone to get hold of you?
Probably my email, so peter.paul@augensoftwaregroup.com.
Okay, fantastic. We will pop that below when the video goes up. So thank you very much. So there we have it, another fireside chat, and we will be back with you some more real soon. Bye for now.